Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by Trading Academy. As always, I am your host, Josh Lilquist. In the last segment, we talked about having an actual plan and practicing that investment plan before you get into the stock market. Most people just put their hard-earned money, think about this, put their hard-earned money into a platform, a brokerage account, and buy something and hope it goes up. Would it be advantageous to have an actual strategy and steps within that strategy and proper capital management? Would that change things for you financially? Potentially. Well, we go through that strategy in these investing classes. We show you how do you minimize risk in the markets, which is what we do every single day in our life. How do we get into the markets safely and confidently? But how do we have a step-by-step approach to the markets, especially the stock market? If you want to see what that approach is, we have these investing classes. They're about 2 hours long, all across the metro. We have a state-of-the-art facility here in Bloomington, but we're doing classes all over here. That way we can come to your backyard. Simply just text the word investing to the number 210, and that's for 2 seats for this investing class, one for you and one for a friend. We do appreciate our subscribers and our followers. We're going to make this podcast, Investing and Trading Live, we're going to make this the #1 global podcast on the financial markets. So we do appreciate our subscribers on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. If you're not subscribed, simply just go to Investing and Trading Live. We do a market update almost each and every single day on what's happening and the do's and the don'ts of the stock market. So, Al, on this segment here, I want to discuss a couple things, but there's different approaches in everything we do in our life. Think about, you have a health club, right? There's many health clubs out there, and there's a couple, we'll say 2 styles of training. You have people in there trying to get big and strong and trying to get muscular. That's one approach to hitting the gym. Another approach is there's others that are trying to get slim and tone and sleek and sexy, right? So there's 2 different approaches in a lot of things that we do, but the health club or the gym is one example. Now, the same thing applies to the stock market. There's 2 different approaches with the stock market. You have income style trading, and then you have wealth style investing. Right. In the strategy that we do here at the Academy, the strategy is the same whichever style that you want to do, but it's just the duration of time that your investments take. Now, which is a good thing because you don't have to be sitting at your computer actually placing these trades. Well, you have to create it, but to actually execute, you can actually have the computer execute it for you automatically. So I want you to talk about those 2 approaches, the income style and the wealth style, but also just kind of go through and I want to see what your opinion on which one is actually more important.
Okay, so if you look at your financial life, it really is comprised of 2 parts. One is your income part. While you're working, think about it. Why do you work? Why do you go to work? You go to work because you need to have income on a relatively short-term basis to pay bills, which seem to appear in your mailbox almost every day. Being alive is not free. So that income part, that's where you're working. That's your accumulation phase. At some point in time, everybody's going to be retired, and it may happen not necessarily by your choice. Everybody is going to go through things in their life that could impact when they retire. So that's the wealth portion. That's your retirement portion. You need to have something to rely on for what could be an additional 20, 30, or for some people 40 years after they retire. Unfortunately, Wall Street puts you into something, and I think most people listening will agree with this. If you go to an advisor or you listen to news you hear or read articles on investing, it tells you that this is a long-term thing. You're in this for the long term. You put a portfolio together, and if you just hold on for 10 or 20 or 30 years, what we call buy and hold, you'll be fine. Well, that doesn't address the income portion because you can't tell somebody, let's say that the furnace in your house breaks down, which typically happens in winter when it's 20 below zero. Mm-hmm. Let's say your furnace breaks down. You have a new furnace put in, and when the person that installed it gives you the bill and says, how do you want to pay for it? What do you think is going to happen if you say, well, I have this long-term portfolio, I will pay you in 10 or 20 years? Mm-hmm. That's not going to fly. He might take his furnace back with him. But so you need additional income means short term. So think about this. When you go to a financial advisor, how many of you have had a financial advisor talk to you about the 2 different approaches? And what I mean by that is if you're looking for short term income, That's a different way of handling the market, a different way of looking at assets and strategies than the long-term wealth retirement strategy is. So are your advisors talking to you about the two different approaches and which one is right for you? And by the way, for all of you that are using a financial advisor or thinking about it, I just looked at an article the other day. Portfolio management and investment advice prices have surged at a 31.8% annual rate.
What does that mean?
It means you're paying a lot more money for somebody to supposedly manage your money for you.
And basically hold it. That's about it.
Yeah, especially if you're doing that long-term strategy. I mean, really all they need to do is put together a portfolio, just tell you to hold on to it, and they don't have to do anything for 10 or 20 years if they don't want to. But we're seeing a lot of people that are coming into these classes, and I think one of the reasons that our classes are filling up so quickly is because people are upset. They're paying an advisor a lot of money. You know, we see people that come in that are paying, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a year in financial advice or financial advisors' fees, and they're not getting the returns that they need or they want.
Yeah.
We've got all sorts of issues that I think impact what I think is the most important between income and wealth is the income portion. You have to have additional income to be able to build a wealth portfolio. And then when you go into retirement, you still need some income. What's more important than the amount of money you have in a retirement account is how much income you generate off of it.
Yeah.
And there are ways of doing that, but you need to know those income strategies. That's why I think that's so important to start with. The cost of living has just skyrocketed recently.
Yeah.
Everybody who goes grocery shopping or into a restaurant or puts gas in their car knows that the cost of living has gone up significantly. The new tax bill that President Biden is looking at putting forward has a 44.9% capital gains tax rate in it. That's huge. In the state of Minnesota, that means that you'd be paying over 50% in capital gains. That's going to have a huge impact on people and their ability to create wealth. So it means you need to be able to identify things that give you the potential for better returns with total understanding of risk management, how to make sure that you do well. We see people come in, and I think you mentioned this earlier in one of the segments, where people have some really good returns, but then they lose it. That happens all the time. Anybody can throw money at the market and be lucky and have a big return. But typically what happens to those people is that they end up losing it because the next one or two or three trades they do is a loser.
Yeah.
And people think because they have one or two good trades, they're geniuses, and then they start throwing more money in it. They don't pay attention to position sizing, and they don't play defense. They don't know how to make sure that they're managing risk. So any potential loss you have is a small one.
Yep. I think there's a lot of stuff out there, and I think what a lot of people are starting to realize, Al, is there's a lot of hands in your cookie jar. I mean, there's money. Your paycheck, you don't even get your full paycheck right away. Right? If you're a W-2 employee, half of that money is taken out by somebody. There's a hand in that cookie jar. So that's money that you can't invest right away. And as you mentioned, there's going to be a tax bill. I don't know if that's signed or that's actually happened yet, but potentially where more taxes are going to be taken out, and you're going to be missed out on capital gains. So there's more hands in the cookie jar. And I think one of the comments I've been hearing a lot is people want more control. They're tired of having somebody else's hand in their pocket, trying to take their hard-earned money. And if you haven't been going back to the advisor approach, which is one approach, is buy and hold and put your money in the market. And I don't want to try to poo-poo the people. The people are good. It's the industry is what's making people suffer. And if you think about it, and the stats are everywhere. We have a retirement crisis.
Yes, we do.
Okay, think about that. If the stats say we have a retirement crisis, people don't have enough to retire, but everybody has a broker or an advisor, a lot of people do, and they're told all these things that you're going to have all this money when you retire, and if nobody has it, is there a problem? Just think about that for a second. If you want more control, learn how to do it yourself. It's not rocket science. You just haven't been taught the skills. It is actually a skill. And it starts with understanding what you can do and what you can't do in the markets, what you can do with the stock market. How do you get started properly? How do you build the confidence? That's why we have these investing classes here at the Academy, Al, to introduce these techniques and concepts that we're talking about so people can have more control with their financial future. To come into one of these classes, simply just text the word investing. And that's to the number 210-210. So when you text that number, 210-210, you text investing to that, you're going to get a message right back. And it'll probably be before you even drop your phone. It's going to have a link to our landing page, and you're going to be able to pick your own date and time for this investing class. So if you do want more control of your financial future, check out one of these investing classes, and we'll show you these techniques and concepts that we're talking about. Al, we could go on and on about some fun things about the markets. It's been a great show. A lot of people texting in. Congratulations. I know you have the OTA tip of the week. Let's hear it.
Well, you're not going to wake up one day and your life suddenly is going to be exactly how you imagined it to be. But you can wake up one day and suddenly decide to make it that way. You have a choice. Being successful financially, by the way, is only about 20% knowledge and 80% mindset and action. A lot of people know what to do, but just don't do it. They don't take action. So maybe now is the time for you to make a choice. So what are you going to do? What is your choice going to be?
I like that. Take action. Sometimes taking action is that hardest thing. Yes, coming to a strange place for an investing class, you don't know who's there. It might maybe going by yourself or your spouse. You know what? Take that chance. Take that chance in you. Take that chance in your family. Text the word investing to the number 210-210. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. That's Investing and Trading Live. As always, same time, same place next week. Until then, retire young, my friends.